This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
Welcome to This Feels Familiar. I'm your host, Minaa B. I'm a therapist, author, and creator of The Siblinghood Theory, and this show explores the themes of belonging, conflict, and relational patterns shaping your life. So let's dive in. Lately, one of the common things that I hear from clients or just people that I know is how hard it is to make friends as an adult. In school, friendships happened by default because you were forced to spend several hours a day with the same people. And as a result of that, you shared experiences, which led to bonding, and friendships just naturally formed. The same thing happens when you're in college, for example. You're surrounded by people your age with similar life stages. Sometimes you live near each other, sometimes you don't. But at the end of the day, being surrounded by familiar faces played a role in how you were able to form friendships. Now, when it comes to adulthood, it's completely different. You have work, you have a family, maybe you have a partner, but regardless, we all have responsibilities that eat at our time and our energy. Not only that, but many adults are no longer surrounded by a built-in community that they are seeing regularly, and not a lot of people want to make friends with their colleagues. And so making friends as an adult can become harder. It's just a natural part of life. However, people are experiencing loneliness. And so today, we're going to talk about how to actually make friends as an adult. And most importantly, what you can do to keep your new friendships so that you can mitigate symptoms of loneliness, but also build the flourishing relationships that you desire. So before I continue, please remember to subscribe to the show so that you do not miss any future episodes. So why is there a challenge around adult friendships? I want to dive into some data first. According to the American Perspective Survey, 49% of adults have 3 or fewer close friends as of 2021, compared to only 27% in 1990. The share of people with 10 or more close friends dropped from roughly a third to about 1 in 8. And the American Psychological Association reports that more than half of U.S. adults feel isolated, left out, or lacking companionship often or some of the time. So this is a real issue. It's not just people feeling lonely. The actual number of close friendships has declined significantly. And this isn't because people are worse at making friends, at least that's my opinion. I do think it's because the structure that used to make friendship easy has completely changed. And there are 2 particular structures that I feel like we had when we were younger or during different phases of life that I feel like we should talk about. So the first structure is proximity. As a kid, friendships happened by default. You went to school, you saw the same people every day, and it was the proximity that created friendships. You didn't really have to try because you were consistently seeing the same person, and as a result of that, you were having numerous encounters with the same people over and over again. But as an adult, there is no built-in structure. You have to create the proximity. You have to go out and find the people. You also have to make time. Nobody is forced to get up and go to school from 8 to 4 anymore. Now we are forced to get up and go to work for numerous hours a day. But again, in the work environment, many people aren't looking for friends. And depending on the type of environment that you have, you might get some camaraderie out of it, but it may not lead to the deep, emotionally satisfying relationships you're looking for. And without proximity doing the work for you, friendships require conscious choice and effort. And most people aren't putting in that effort, which means friendships naturally decline after school or college unless there is intentional investment from both parties. Now, the other barrier is the emotional barrier. It's not always structural. I do believe that there is an emotional barrier that keep people from even trying. And in my work, one of the core things that I actually find is how our childhood friendship wounds or early adult life experiences can show up when we're trying to make friends. So, if you were excluded as a kid, for example, and you felt ostracized as a child, you didn't feel like you belonged, if friendships felt unreliable, those patterns can still be operating in your adult friendships and how you perceive friendships and how you even pursue friendships. You might unconsciously believe that people won't like you because you maybe are still wounded by the friend who ostracized you in middle school or the bullying you experienced in high school or that really, really bad friendship breakup you had when you were 25. You might learn that friendship is risky, and that's because it requires vulnerability. It requires openness. It literally requires you putting yourself out there. And if you have experienced putting yourself out there and you were wounded or hurt, it can create this internal shame and it can leave you in a place where you just don't want to try anymore because you've been hurt. So that's one barrier. I also believe busyness can become a form of protection because, yes, life is genuinely busy, but busyness also protects you from rejection. So, if you're too busy to try, you can't be rejected. If you're too busy to invest in other people, you can't get hurt. And there are times where busyness becomes a wall between you and potential vulnerability. And fear is intertwined in all of this. Fear that you won't know what to say to someone when you meet them, especially if you feel inadequate as a person or if you're judging yourself for where you are in life. The amount of stories I hear from adults who say, well, I'm embarrassed about the job that I have, or I'm embarrassed that I'm recently divorced. I'm embarrassed I haven't had any children yet. I'm embarrassed for all of these things. And I don't want to meet someone who might judge me because of these things. I also believe that comparison plays a role in why people stay away from forming new friendships because if you are judging yourself, you may project that onto other people and assume that they're judging you. And it's possible that nobody is really concerned about whether you're married or not. It might be possible nobody's concerned about what kind of career that you have. But if you are consistently scrutinizing yourself, you can easily go into friendships and assume that people won't like you because maybe you're struggling to like yourself, or maybe you're just struggling to like parts of your life because you can love some parts of yourself and dislike some parts of yourself at the same time. And there are times where when we're going to make friendships, we feel like it won't work, but that's more so because you are already creating this barrier because of how you feel about yourself. And so these are things that you have to pay attention to because I do find that this is how a lot of people end up lonely in adulthood. People who might have a partner, might have family, might have colleagues, but they don't have close friends. And that affects their mental health, their sense of belonging, and their well being. And so I want to get practical. I really want to jump into how you can start making friends. And so, as I said, the first barrier is structural. There's no built in community like there was in school. So you have to create it intentionally. Seriously, pick a place where you know you will see the same people regularly. This removes some of the pressure because you don't have to figure out how to meet strangers in a vacuum. You have a natural meeting ground. So choose something that actually interests you. So if you know you hate yoga, please do not go and join a yoga class to make friends because you will resent it and it will show up. If you do not like running, do not join a run club. Do something that you genuinely enjoy. So if you do work out, go to a gym, or you might find a particular workout class that you think is suitable for your fitness needs. And while you're in that class, you do have to be open to say hi to other people, ask other people how they're doing, But for example, if you know that there's a Pilates class that happens every Monday at 9 a.m., maybe you should go to that specific class every Monday at 9 a.m. so that you can see if there are other people who frequent the space the same time as you, because the more you see the same faces, the more you will feel accustomed to the environment and more comfortable to maybe approach the person and say hello. I also want you to think outside of classes. Think about volunteer organizations. Think of a cause that's really important to you and ask yourself, can I go outside and volunteer and see who I can meet? Also, think of work communities. There are so many people who are creating online communities or even in person communities for people who are trying to better themselves in their careers. And so it could be workshops or just different functions, even networking events that you can go to that will allow for you to invest in friendships. Hobbies are also things that I think can be really important. Nowadays, I find that book clubs are actually making a comeback, and I'm really excited about that. So, if you are someone who genuinely loves reading books, I would really encourage you to think about joining an actual book club. Most of the time, you're going to see the same faces, the same people, and it helps you see that there's a common interest. Going back to some of the things that I said earlier, if you don't like yoga, don't join a yoga class. But if you do, maybe you should join a yoga class. Maybe if you do love running, go to a run club. These are different things and places that you can go that will most likely guarantee repetition. And that is the key here. You see the same people multiple times. You have a natural context for interaction, and that makes it easier. I also want to provide some data here because this is backed by research. A study by Jeffrey Hall from the University of Kansas found that it takes approximately 50 hours of contact to move from acquaintance to casual friend, about 90 hours to move to friend, and over 200 hours of intentional time together to develop a close friendship. This research was published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships and is based on tracking both relocated adults and college students over time. Now, that sounds like a lot, but it is actually doable. If you see someone once a week for an hour, you'll reach 50 hours in a year very quickly. You'll reach close friendship status in about 4 years of consistent contact. And I think the reason why this is important too is because some of us are trying to act as if we met the 200 hours by the second time we engaged with the person. And I think you really need to understand how long it can actually take to build a very, very genuine relationship with someone. And when I say 4 years of consistent contact, this is clearly deep, deep intimacy with a close friend. But you can meet someone and within 6 months feel deeply close to them. So it's really important for you to recognize that where you go matters, repetition matters. You don't want to say, you know what, when I go to the supermarket today, I'm going to try to make friends. That may not be realistic. Maybe you will meet someone, but the likelihood of you consistently bumping into the same person at the supermarket probably isn't going to happen. But if you do go to the run club, if you do go to the Pilates class that happens at 9 a.m., even if you're talking to just the instructor, just think of places where you can frequent over time, but also think about the time you're investing into the people when you meet them.
Here's your report.
Oh, thanks, Jane. I wish I could hire someone just like you.
Try LinkedIn Hiring Pro. It's more than a job board. It's like the recruiter you always wished you had. Hiring Pro uses real-time insights to match your role to LinkedIn's unique network of professionals and delivers a short list of best fit candidates. You'll spend less time sorting applicants and more time talking to the right people.
Let's do it. You're irreplaceable, Jane, but another you would be great.
Hire right the first time. Post your job for free on LinkedIn today at linkedin.com/quality.
Hear that? That's now Crispy and McCrispy strips meeting Creamy Caesar sauce. Sounds extra crispy. Caesar sauce at McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
The next thing that you need to do is show up consistently so that you can overcome the busyness barrier. Because here's where people slip up. We are all busy people, okay? I get it. Yes, life is busy, but the truth is, if you want friendships, you are going to have to prioritize them. not instead of everything else, but as something that matters. I'm not saying that making new friends should come before your family or your children or your spouse or your sick parent or whatever. But if you know you are lonely, if you know you are craving really, really rich friendships and you desire closeness and intimacy, it is not going to happen if you text somebody once every 6 months. It is not going to happen if you decide you're going to go get coffee with a friend the 1st of March and you're not going to see them again until September. I'm sorry, but it's just not going to happen. Maybe that person will be more of an acquaintance. But again, if you are looking for really rich, nourishing friendships, it's going to ask of your time. And this is where the concept of recognizing that sometimes making friends and being in healthy relationship does require inconvenience. It requires you showing up when you're tired. It requires you deciding, you know what, I'm going to go on the coffee date instead of rescheduling. It requires you to answer certain text messages that come in instead of waiting 6 weeks before responding because the other person might decide, you know what, this person isn't really communicative. I'm going to take a step back and I'm not going to reach out to them anymore. And so if you join a class or a group and only go once, nothing is going to happen. You have to commit to showing up multiple times. That's how people start to recognize you, and that's how connection is built. The next step is really important. This is being the first to initiate. A lot of people don't make friends because they don't know how to move from acquaintance to friend. I personally noticed that a lot of people wait for the other person to suggest something or to text or to reach out. And I think sometimes that's just rooted in our fear of rejection. It's our anxiety about meeting new people. It's the fear that, are they going to like me? Am I being overbearing? Am I being too much? The only way to really know is to initiate. Someone has to be the person who suggests coffee or says, do you want to grab dinner sometimes? Do you want to hop on a Zoom call? Do you want to hop on a FaceTime? And it might as well be you. Start small. Talk about shared experiences. If you met the person at a run club, ask them what other fitness routines they're doing or how they found the run club, or just ask really specific questions as a way to get to know them. But the thing is, you do have to be willing to initiate. And I see this happen all the time when people go to conferences or they go on retreats or they go to networking events. In those contained environments, because socializing is the core focus, I find that a lot of people go into those rooms and it can feel a little easy to give out your business card, talk about yourself, make a new connection. But then when the event is over, the amount of times I hear people say, yeah, I made a connection 2 weeks ago at that event, but I never followed up with the person. Or sometimes someone did follow up and you just didn't respond. This plays a role in why your friendships are not deepening, because we're often waiting for the other person to initiate, or we go into these spaces assuming that friendships will just naturally form and that we don't have to do anything else that requires our time, investment, and effort. And so you have to be willing to initiate. If you went to a networking event and you connected with someone that you really like, follow up with them, send them an email, ask them if they'd be open to a Zoom call or hopping on the phone, or ask them if they'd like to get a cup of coffee. If you went to the run club and you notice that every time you go there, there's someone that catches your eye or attention, say hello, initiate the first contact, and then ask, would you be open to exchanging numbers? I think this plays a role in rejection, and that's why people struggle to initiate. And I'll probably have to just talk about that in a completely different episode. But what I will share here briefly is that there are going to be times where we're rejected. There is no way to sugarcoat that. And we do have to teach our nervous system that rejection doesn't mean that we're bad people. It doesn't mean we're broken people. When you are trying to make friends, you want to make sure that you're making friends with people who actually want to be in friendship with you too. It shouldn't be, I like this person seems unique to me, so I want to pursue them. If they're not pursuing you in return, that's also a sign. So I know the rejection can feel hard, but there's a greater story attached to it, which is you are not aligned with that person, and that person feels they're not aligned with you. And so that rejection is there so that you can go out and meet the people who are for you. So try not to let rejection interfere with your ability to initiate contact with people or initiate deepening the relationship because you're concerned that the other person may reject you. Maybe you do need the rejection so that you can reroute your focus and attention to the people who actually want to be in relationship with you. Now, this next step kind of weaves into what I'm talking about right now, which is learning to navigate vulnerability, because this is where the emotional barriers come up. You put yourself out there, and what if they don't like you? What if they say something? What if you say something weird? And I do think the antidote is gradual vulnerability. Friendship deepens through sharing, but key thing here. You do not need to share your deepest trauma with someone on the first coffee date, the first dinner date, or the first phone call. I do think that people are struggling when it comes to oversharing, and I think social media culture plays a role in that because it has now become an environment where people come to the internet to share their deepest, darkest secrets. And a lot of people aren't keeping things close and intimate to their hearts anymore. And I find that when some people are forming new friendships, they're treating it like it's a threads connect where I can just come into this space and pour out all my stuff and expect this person to sit with it. There's millions of people on threads. You're most likely going to find somebody who's going to engage with your deepest, darkest secrets. But if you meet somebody at a run club or at a networking event or in a Pilates class or at the gym, your first impression is really for them to get to know parts of you and your character. The parts of you that are wounded, traumatized, hurt don't necessarily have to show up immediately. Now, maybe depending on the conversation, something can come up that is serious and that reveals a little bit about you. But often people don't want to be put in a position early on where they feel like they have to be a mentor to you or a therapist to you if what they're looking for is just genuine connection. So I want you to just remember that it is okay to be vulnerable, but you do have to be mindful of how you share, what you share, and how quickly you share. Everyone is looking for friendship. Everybody is looking for connection. And when you put yourself out there, you are giving people an opportunity to get to know you, but you also want to be mindful that everything doesn't have to come out during the first interaction. It's okay to take your time in letting people know who you are and also take your time in getting to know other people. Now, here is the last step. Be consistent. After that first hangout, what do? You follow up. You suggest another time. You keep texting. You show them that you're interested in continuing the friendship, because this is where a lot of people fail. They have one good hangout and then disappear. Or they have one good hangout and they don't follow up or communicate with the person until another 6 months. So understand that consistency doesn't mean constant contact, but it does mean showing up. It means being the person who reaches out. It means following through when you say you'll do something. And here is the reality that you also need to understand. Yes, some friendships will fade. People move, life changes, things happen. But the ones that matter, the ones you invest in consistently, there's a strong likelihood they will stick around if the relationship is reciprocal. And the only way to know that is to be consistent. So once you do make friends, how do you sustain them? Here are some things that you need to do. You need to show up even when it's inconvenient. Friendship sustains through presence, so you need to engage in regular hangouts, regular conversation. This gets harder as life gets busier, but the friendships that survive are the ones where people are prioritizing each other. So just make sure reciprocity is a part of this process. The next thing is you have to keep practicing vulnerability. Again, you don't need to come in strong and share your deepest, darkest secrets the first time you meet someone. But as time gradually goes by, there are going to be people that you realize, I want to build deep intimacy with this person. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to gradually open up. Now, the next thing I think is really important is to learn how to navigate conflict without abandoning people. There are going to be times where you realize, okay, I met this person, we've known each other for 3, 6 months. I don't think this is working for a variety of reasons. Okay. But here's the thing, all friendships do have conflict or rough patches. You might meet someone who you vibed well with and they forget your birthday, or things are going great and you set a plan and they cancel the plan, or maybe they even say something that's hurtful. I do believe the difference between friendships that last and those that don't is how people handle conflict. Do you address it when it happens? Are you open to repairing, or are you just trying to remain right and not hear what anybody has to say? Do you disappear? Do you withdraw? Do you avoid? Or do you say, you know what? I need to allow myself to be seen and I need to be honest about how I feel. So in friendships, sustaining them requires openness, vulnerability, but also the willingness to deal with the hard moments that come with being in community with other human beings. That is what friendship is. And I think too many people have this fairy tale version of friendship, which is I'm going to connect with someone that I like and we're always going to be pleasant. Things are always going to be fine between us. There will be no rifts because this is my person. And that is not true. Your friends are human beings. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to mess up. They're going to do things that actually annoy the crap out of you. And it is okay to have hard conversations with the people you claim are your friends. I also encourage you to stay connected despite the distance and time, because life is going to change. People do move. Their jobs become more demanding. People have children, they get married, they start taking care of family, they're stressed out, so they're taking care of themselves. Things happen, and friendships can fade if you let them. But the thing is, you don't have to. You can maintain friendships across distance through effort, such as regular video calls, thoughtful texts, or visiting someone as much as possible. I also believe that if we learn to be flexible in friendship regarding how we engage in community with one another, it will allow the friendship to last longer. And what I mean by that is a lot of the time we have this belief that friendship means we're going out to dinner dates all the time, or we're planning vacations, or we're just doing something social. And you have to realize that because life can happen to all of us, life is happening to all of us. That means there are periods where we're just going through things where we can be broke, we can be tired, we can be burnt out. And instead of going to dinner, sometimes your friend might say, do you mind coming over and we just order takeout? Instead of going to the movies, some friends might say, do you want to come over and watch the movie on my couch? Like, be willing to be flexible in your friendship. Now, if you are looking for a specific kind of friend, that's important. And I'm going to break that down in another episode, because there are times where we are looking for a friend that we can socialize with. Maybe you are the friend who you're the only single person left in your friend group. And so you want to be able to go to parties and you want to go on vacations, and all of your friends are bound by parenthood and marriage or relationships. And so they don't have the flexibility to say, yes, we can go to Paris next month, or yes, I'll go with you to this party tonight. I can't because I have small kids I have to put to bed. So there are going to be times where you want friends for a specific purpose. That is also okay. It's important to be open to recognizing what you want and making that request known, right? So I do think that requires a little more discernment, and it requires more work around how you navigate those friendships. But I do want to say that every friendship doesn't have to turn into this really deep thing. Sometimes we're looking for friends where what we do want is just to hang out. And so therefore, if they move or if their life changes, that can impact the friendship, because the whole purpose of the friendship was for us to go party. It was for us to go on vacation. It was for us to do all of these things. And now we can't do them anymore. And it's okay to honor when a friendship does come to an end or when some distance gets created because the purpose of the friendship is not being fulfilled anymore. But I do think the purpose of the friendship should be known. Okay, so I want you to understand that making and sustaining friendships as an adult can be hard. I am with you there. I truly do believe it can be hard. And you're not broken because you struggle with it. You are experiencing what most adults experience, which is the loss of built-in community. And you need to create it intentionally. You can make friends and you can sustain them, but it does require showing up. It requires vulnerability, and it requires choosing the people that you think you want to do life with. Friendships are how we experience belonging, and they're how we heal from our wounds and grow into fuller versions of ourselves. And so if this episode resonated with you, please rate and subscribe to the show. Also, subscribe to my newsletter, All the Hard Things on Substack, and don't forget to grab a copy of my book, Owning Our Struggles. All of the links are linked in the show notes and the description box. Here's something I want you to cling to today. Making friendships as an adult is hard, but it's not impossible. It requires intention, consistency, and vulnerability. You can find your people, but you have to be willing to show up. Until next time.